Nemesis, and Atlantis. Lost information, the rise and fall of an advanced civilization, megaliths that can't be duplicated today with the most advanced technologies. What happened? Where did all the knowledge go? We've got Sheldon Moore with us today, and Sheldon breaks down this information amazingly. So let's embark on a journey to uncover the secrets of the soul and reach enlightenment. Sheldon Moore and myself will explore the mysteries of ancient megalithic structures, including the pyramids of Egypt, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and how these marvels hold the keys to spiritual evolution. Discover the lost teachings of Atlantis, the hidden powers of the chakras, and how predicting eclipses can actually activate the life body and help you leave the matrix. The ancients knew this. Let's unveil the higher teachings passed down through mystery schools and avatars like Jesus and the Buddha, which have been suppressed for thousands of years. This is your guide to the real path of awakening and breaking free from the matrix. So buckle up, Buttercup, let's go.
So the journey of the soul. You always like this one, so I've really put some slides in here to get this for you, Rex. We did this for you.
This is really cool.
So the journey of the soul. What is the soul? So it's a multi-dimensional plasma ball. When I say multi-dimensional, because it can go in the dimensions. And when you start seeing these digital photographies of these little plasma balls showing up, when you look at them really close, you see the Tibetan and the Hindu Dharma wheels inside them. So the wheel of samsara is not just a metaphorical sort of thing where they try to explain. The wheel is literally right there encoded into your soul as well. So all your past life is in there. All your spiritual attainments and everything that you've ever learned is in there.
Oh, yeah. So real quick, I just wanted to let you know about that free webinar. I've had a bunch of emails. If you send me an email at leakproject@gmail.com, we'll get you on the registry. It's totally free. It's going to be a 1-hour webinar where Jay Matta and myself are going to host. And we're going to help give some tools and ideas to people that want to get into social media. Maybe you want to have a YouTube channel. Maybe you want to do stuff on Instagram and Telegram and other social media platforms. We'll show you how. It's actually a lot of fun. And at first, it's a bit overwhelming. But once you get into it and once you get the right tools of the trade and have the right people behind you, it's a lot of fun. And it's really not that difficult. So let your passion take you to the next level. Do what you love to do and be rewarded for it. And hope to see you at the seminar. leakproject@gmail.com.
Can't believe it. Hallelujah. All right. This is so cool. Ladies and gentlemen, how the heck are you? We've spent the past 30 minutes working on some technical opportunities, and it's always fun to speak with Mr. Sheldon Moore here. You know, we've done, I think, 10, 12 podcasts that have been between 3 and 4 hours each. And then I took some of those and made them into smaller segments for people. But recently, because of the opportunities on certain platforms, I had to take down all my previous videos. And so folks are like, Rex, what happened to all your awesome shows with Sheldon? You can still watch those on Patreon. You can still watch those on Leak Project. And we've even got a bunch of them uploaded on Rumble. And today could be one of the most significant presentations yet from Mr. Sheldon Moore, Sri Sheldon Moore, The Hidden Teaching. And this just came out. And wow. Have you heard of the Buddha way or the mind of the Buddha? That's kind of what I think of when I think of some of your teachings, Sheldon. And also your previous work. I would definitely recommend people go to Amazon and pick that up. Do you have any Remembering Zen books left?
Yeah, they just print them as you order them. So
okay,
it
good.
doesn't matter where you're in the world, Amazon prints them and they just come out of their print centers basically. So
great. Okay. Well, dude, you look fantastic. How have you been?
I've been pretty good. Yeah. I bought another farm when we last talked, and that took up a lot of my time. It was some hoarders lived there before I purchased it. So it was quite a mess to clean up and everything. And about a year ago, I moved right down by a lake, and I live in a way smaller cottage right by a lake now. And so it's given me time to write a book. Your viewers always write me and say, when's this book coming out? When's this book coming out? And I've just never had time to write it. And this winter, I kind of took a couple months and just sort of hunkered down and finally wrote the book everybody's been asking for so long. And
now I want to say thank you for sending me a copy. The only thing that I was a little bit disappointed, I guess, is I didn't have an autograph on it. And I was like, and I figured you probably had to have it printed from somewhere and sent versus signing it from your house. But anyway, thank you so much for sending me this.
And you now we have to meet, and you have to bring it, and we'll meet in person again, and you can I'll sign it then. So
you're on, man. That will be an honor, and I'm super looking forward to it.
So anyway, I just want to tell people a little bit about this book and why I called it The Hidden Teaching. Is in about 2008, I discovered through a direct experience, but also I was a practicing Buddhist for decades up till that point, and I discovered a teaching, elements of a teaching that can help people awaken, help sleeping souls awaken a lot faster. So I wrote a book really quickly almost and wanted to get it out there as fast as I could because I thought it was that important, because this is back in 2008. And this is when everybody was pushing the 2012 button, we're going to ascend into the fifth dimension, and everything is going to be great, and all the bad guys are going to be arrested, and none of that ever happened. And because to change your consciousness, you need to reach enlightenment in one lifetime. And if you actually listen to some of the masters, that's the only way to get out of this place is to attain enlightenment. You do not leave cyclic existence until you attain enlightenment. So I thought it was really important to share this teaching with everybody. And I tried my best to capture everything I could in the first book, Remember Zen, but I left some stuff out on purpose. And the reason I did was you can actually attain enlightenment too quickly. You got to be ready. Your spiritual foundation has to be ready. The fear and the hatred and all those things have to dissipate. And spiritually, you have to be ready. Otherwise, there's a thing called the dark night of the soul, and it lasts sometimes more than a night. But there is a time after you attain awakening where, call them mountain spirits, jinn, archons, whatever, where they'll come in and they disrupt newly awakened people. And I was aware of this. And I know that's why a lot of monasteries and stuff only gave these teachings verbally, orally. They were withheld until you were quite an advanced student. So I worried that I'm giving this teaching out too early, and I've even contacted Buddhist monks and asked them about it, and a lot of them didn't even understand it. I know there's very high level monks that understand this stuff, but most of them don't even understand this stuff. So I kind of sat on it, and about a year ago, I think it was one of your guests, or not your guests, one of your members, Rex, that wrote me the most kindest letter I think I've ever received, and that my teachings actually helped him change his own consciousness. And this guy was forever grateful. And I realized then, after I read this guy's letter, that I've got to write this last book and just put it all out on the line, tell people everything that I know. And so it's there, right? Because in my old book, it was kind of coded. And I even told one of the very early podcasts we did about 7 years ago, I challenged people to go look at these sutras that I was referring to, and that they'll see this. And it was like 2 days later, one of your viewers wrote me and said, well, let's get started. And this girl, back and forth for months, she just drilled down into everything. And she even found stuff that I hadn't found yet. So she kind of helped me out with some of the research, I guess you could say. So I kind of wrote this book a lot for a lot of the people that have contacted me on Leak Project over the years. Really great people. I'm in contact with a lot of. Sorry, Rex, I'm talking to your
no, this is great. No, I'm glad you're talking about that, because I still get emails complimenting your work, and I appreciate that. So this is fantastic. Okay. This is long overdue, man. Yeah.
So this is the book. I don't think I'm going to write any more, so don't write me again and ask for the next one and the next one. But this one's important. It's got a lot of information in it that if you want to be a better yogi, or if you want to be a better rishi, this book will take you a long ways, basically. And I'm saying that humbly. I'm not blowing my own smoke here. So what I want to talk about is a lot of people. There's a lot of researchers out there that are starting to look at a lot of these ancient sites, and they realize that we don't have all the information to what really went on in our past. We don't. There's big gaps in our past, and I believe it's been hidden by design, a lot of it, because as we entered the dark age, the ones in control want to maintain control, and the last thing you can have if you want to maintain control is an enlightened society. If there's all of a sudden enlightened people all over the place, and that energy sort of extrapolates out to people who aren't enlightened yet, but they're on the right path, they didn't want that. So that's why you often see these rigid religions form around a lot of after these great gurus have come. We get these very rigid religions that form around them, and within 100 years, they're not teaching the essence of the original teaching. They're off in another direction, right? And we have all these stone walls like Baalbek in Syria, and Machu Picchu, and where we don't have the technologies to move those sizes of stones or to cut them into those sizes. So something else happened in our past that we don't understand. And now they're speculating the pyramids are much older. Like you see this picture of the pyramid with all the rocks there. That thing, that's the Great Pyramid. That thing was covered. It wasn't it was some kind of granite. It wasn't marble, but it was completely smooth. It was just perfectly smooth. And what most people don't realize is that they mined that site for hundreds of years. So all the marble or all of this rock that was on the outside that made it perfectly smooth is in mosques. It's in palaces all over the Middle East. They actually mined that site and took that perfectly smooth, terrible thing to do, but they did it like typical humans, right? Um, and I'm starting to believe that a lot of these sites go back a long ways, a lot further than we think. And now what I just started discovering is when I started looking back at these megalithic sites like Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe, they found them in Armenia. They're all over the world. These sites. They found one in Spain recently that's in a dried up lake, and they all sort of date between sort of 6 to 7, 8,000 years ago. And I know what they were used for. They were used for, they're arithmetical ground calculators, and they're used basically for astronomy, astrology. They were doing the Vedic sidereal zodiac stuff 7,000 years ago, and they were using them for predicting eclipses. And there's a spiritual reason for that part, and like that's the part I know 100%. A lot of this other stuff put a 70%. But when I start talking about how you can attain enlightenment in one lifetime, I know this for 100%. This part of the story. So I think our ancients knew this. It became very obvious that we knew what I'm teaching you, right? Going to teach you guys today. We knew this for sure 2,500 years ago at the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, which was the fourth Buddha. And we also knew this 5,125 years ago, which was the time of Krishna. And I think it goes back even further. So if Göbekli Tepe, I believe, is over 13,000 years. It's over 13,500 years. Because it was buried just at the perihelion when our duel came in, which means this came from our previous golden age. A lot of this teaching came from our previous golden age, and it just trickled down into all these different faiths slowly, and we kind of lost the deeper meaning behind it, but it was there just the same. And I think in Göbekli Tepe's case, they buried it so we would uncover it and we'd kind of figure out what it was for. And if you look at half the researchers trying to figure this out, they're all going in the wrong directions. They put it there to plant, so they knew when to plant crops. These sites weren't made so that the ancients knew when to plant crops. They knew that anyway. You could just look at the seasons. I know when to plant my garden. You wait till at least the full moon in May, and then you plant your garden. They knew this in ancient times.
So what do you think specifically Göbekli Tepe was being used for?
It was used the same way as all the other ones. They were if you can put the Vedic sidereal zodiac right over top of those sites, and they were used for everything. They were following constellations, following the heavens, but most importantly, why they're spiritual sites is they were used for predicting eclipses. All of them were used that way. Yeah. And by the time you finish this presentation, you'll understand that I'm probably correct on that. But I don't know for a fact on that part. That's, I didn't find a sutra in my backyard that told me this, or I'm not channeling anybody. But I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. And if people have watched my stuff before, they probably realize that I'm not one of those mile wide and an inch deep kind of guys. That I know this stuff. I really do. So these past civilizations were practicing higher teachings. And it seems to date back for 5,000 years for sure, but I think it goes right back to our last golden age, which was roughly 13,500 years ago. We were in the height of our last golden age. So, when I see some things like this, I want to just talk quickly about these ancient civilizations all had higher teachings. And we've had avatars who come in, and they all taught the same thing, and it's how to end cyclic existence. And what does cyclic existence mean? It means the reincarnation cycle. And I know a lot of people will think they don't believe that or whatever. That's fine if you don't want to believe it, but it's a fact. It's a fact. Everybody's soul goes through that cycle. And you don't get out of this planet and go on to the great center where God, or the beyond space, time, and false morality, or even to a higher world until you attain enlightenment down here. So you see a lot of these sort of new age snowflakes now. I hate this world. I'm going to get out of here. I'm never coming back. Well, if you haven't attained enlightenment in this lifetime, good luck on that, because you're just going right back into the being recycled again, and you'll get another body and you'll get another chance, and you'll go one more time. That's just the way it goes. And so even Jesus taught that. So when Jesus said you got to be not only baptized, but you got to be born again in spirit, he's talking about enlightenment. He also, in Matthew 6:22, he goes, therefore, though I be single, the whole body shall be full of light. He's talking about enlightenment. Jesus was teaching the same thing, but Rome came in and they subverted that teaching. So you really have to kind of go into Gnostic teachings to understand what Jesus was really teaching. And if you go into the Gnostic stuff, it was heavily edited. And whenever we do these podcasts, there'll always be somebody leave a comment, you should study Gnostic teachings. Well, I have, and I know them better than most people. And all the stuff that we have is nowhere close to what Kriya Yoga is, or what the Vajra teachings in Tibet are. But I'm not knocking the Gnostics. They had the Roman Empire trying to destroy all their teachings. So there is some gospel or a couple gospels out there, I'll guarantee you, that knew of this ancient teaching, because the Essenes, which were really proto-Gnostics, this was the group that lived around the Dead Sea, they had teachings. It was said that they had teachings how to make sleeping souls awaken. So they knew this. And the Gnostics knew it. So if you go into Origen Adamadius, who had the first Coptic church in Egypt, if you read his teachings, because the Rome went in there and edited it, but if you understand what I'm saying today, and then go in there with fresh eyes, and you can kind of see where Rome put their crap in there, he was basically saying everything Buddha was. So Jesus was teaching something very similar to the Buddha, and there's also stories about him living in Asia and stuff. It doesn't matter. Jesus didn't have to go to Tibet. And there was at the time of Jesus, which was 0 AD, Padmasambhava didn't go to Tibet for another, he was there 800, so like 800 years later. So there was really no Buddhism in Tibet at the time of Jesus. So a lot of people who have this story about him going there for the Buddhist teachings is like, it's research some more before you make those statements. He didn't need to go. He would have got everything probably from the Essenes. I think that it was all right there. And a lot of that may have come from the Buddhist teaching and the Krishnist teachings, but he didn't really have to go to Tibet to find these teachings. And I think he could have just, God's will, sometimes somebody just became enlightened. But Jesus was definitely enlightened, just like the Buddha and just like all these other masters. And then if you look at this Egyptian thing here, when you see that circle on top of Egyptian head, That's exactly where the crown chakra is. The crown chakra is not physically in the body like all the other chakras. It just sort of floats above your head. When I see that, I know exactly what that means. And you see the ankh that they hold in their hand, and they got this thing. Well, you've heard of Tibetan singing bowls where they ring the bowls and it helps open up the chakras depending on what chakra is closed. My guess is, I don't know for certain, and people should look into this more. I think the ankh was like a tuning fork. Have you ever hit a tuning fork on a table and touched your lips? The vibration goes right down your central nervous system, which is your Shushanam region, and right down your spine. And I think that these ankhs were probably tuned to whatever chakra that you were having problems with, and that's what that ankh was really for. I don't know for a fact on that one, but when I see this little circle on top of their head, it's a big red flag. And so I think what the ancient Egyptians were is, after we went through perihelion and we started on the descending arc of civilization, basically, the remnants of Atlantis went out. And I think that some of these places, like in Egypt, some of the Babylonian stuff, I think some of it might have actually come from Atlantis, and definitely the stuff of thought, the Emerald tablets and stuff. I think some of that higher teaching was definitely from that time period.
Now, when you say emerald tablets, what you're not referring to the Dorial emerald tablets translation? Are you talking about the original emerald tablet?
The original ones, yeah. And again, we don't really have that complete set either. We kind of got it's funny how all of this ancient stuff, we don't have all the same with the Kalachakra Tantra. We've only got fragments of it. So we lost these teachings and these calendars in the Dark Age, and we're just coming out of the Dark Age. Like literally, that's what I was telling you. I don't know if people have watched our presentations before. I've been telling people for about 8 years to watch 2024, because I believe that the 2012 thing, they mistranslated those calendars, and we're at the time that everybody's been waiting for. Is we're actually there now, and it's why the world's really bad as well, because those in control want to keep control, and they know the energy's changing, and people's consciousness is going to be a little bit higher. So that's why they're going after free speech, and why they want to control it even more. And that's what's going on in the external world right now. Until we wake up and realize and start sitting on our hands and doing nothing and just watching it all go by, become enlightened. If you're going to do anything in the next 5 to 10 years, focus on your own enlightenment. The world will change a lot faster when you change your consciousness. So why does an avatar descend? Because they don't, it's not an ascension for them to come into this world system. An avatar is like the great center. Many souls come out of the great center, and some of them came out a long time ago. So they've crossed this road, they've crossed these shores already. And so coming into this world system is not an ascension, it's a descension. They left a perfect state of Bodhi and came down to help basically old souls cross over to and help the liberation of all sentient beings. That's their main focus. It always is. And one of the things I want to point out is if you ever notice that if you study any of these great teachers, not one of them channeled. They don't do that. Not one of them had this galactic connection to the Galactic Federation of Light or some other group, which we see all the time now. Because like I'm not a big fan of channeling, just based on how terrible it is in terms of accuracy. But you don't necessarily know who you're channeling. You can sit there and say, I want a clear channel and all that stuff. You don't underestimate the archons. They're not going to fall for that game. They're just going to play more games with you. And I'm a real negative person on channeling, because it doesn't deliver any results. And most of the people out there doing it, because I watch what's going on in the community and stuff, and it's a mile wide and an inch deep. They don't really understand the true pure dharma that you need to understand at this point to awaken to your own nature. And so open your discernment chakra. If all of a sudden their little gig has channeling, or they're channeling a higher being, or some of them are channeling archangels now, the grift always changes, but it's always the same kind of story. It's a mile wide and an inch deep, and you watch that stuff all you want, but nobody's going to attain enlightenment by watching that stuff. It's part of the illusion, or the illusion of Maya. It's to confuse you, and to drive this point home, this point a little further, is I'm not attacking people who are channeling and trying to pretend that they understand this when they don't. I'm trying to give them a warning, because the three poisons of Buddhism are ignorance, hatred, and greed. And part of ignorance is delusion. So if everybody's watching stuff that's not really true, like somebody's pretending they're channeling an archangel, or somebody's channeling a higher being in the Galactic Federation, Arcturian, whatever, and they're bringing that information into this world system, and it's really not helping anybody ascend or become enlightened. It's just kind of putting more confusion out there. You're creating really negative karma, not only for yourself, but you're holding other people back. And we're in a time where more people need to attain enlightenment and awaken to their own Buddha nature. They don't need reams and reams of spiritual age new fluff. They need real teachings now. And so that's why I always have a little dig at that, because I understand the karmic effect of what's going on here. And it's kind of annoying sometimes as you watch some of this stuff, and it's just like, it's some of it's pretty bad, and it's kind of cute. I know they're watching my stuff too, because you see them using my stuff in their little grifts now, and it's kind of cute. But we'll see if they use this. If you start hearing people talk about what I'm talking about today, at least you know where it all came from. So there's many documented cases of these avatars that come. But some things, when they pass over, it's a little bit different for them. And one of them is, everybody's heard of the rainbow body. They say when Padmasambhava passed away, that he emanated the rainbow body. And that's where the rainbow body of light, the body basically the material body goes into the spiritual body, and this bright light, rainbow light, comes out. And then they said that 25 of his closest followers also attained the rainbow body, and there was like another 80 after that. So his teachings were pretty sound if that many people were attaining enlightenment, back in 800 AD from his teachings. And in the case of, there was another Lama, he's the main Lama in charge of the founder of the Yellow Hat sect, and his name was Jezong Kappa. And I talk about him quite a bit in my new book. And he lost a tooth, and the rainbow light came out of his mouth while he was still alive. Because one of your guests wrote me once and wanted to know how he could attain the rainbow body, and I told him, well, yeah, I have to be enlightened and then die. So it's kind of, you don't want to rush to attain the rainbow body too quick. But there's documented cases of the rainbow body all over Tibet and Asia. And another thing that happens is when they cremate these high lamas, they leave these pearl-like, they call it ring cell, these pearl-like substance left in the cremation after they're cremated. And it says it contains the essence. That's how you tell if this was a true teacher, is after they're cremated, is the ring cell is a like proof to the people that this was truly a divine being. I'm pretty sure if you cremated half of the New Age fluff peddlers out there, there's not going to be any ring cell after they're cremated. But in the terms of these high lamas and stuff that have appeared all over India and Tibet, this is an actual occurrence. And this picture here is Jezong Kappa. This is the Tibetan master that just when his tooth came out, he emanated the rainbow body. And this one here, it's we've talked about him. This is I don't know, is he blocked in the this was the first or the fifth or sixth patriarch of Zen or Chan, Wei Ning, or some people call him Hui Ning. When he died, see, his physical or his material or his spiritual body just stepped right out of his physical body, and it was instantly preserved. That he looks pretty good, right? That guy died in around 700 AD. So, like, he's been sitting out in the rain and he hasn't decomposed. His physical body's still there. probably should have cremated him and probably would have found the ring cell with him. But I think the monks at the time, they're probably a little bit freaked out that this guy didn't decompose and he was in the perfect lotus position, and they left him there, and he's still there, and he hasn't decomposed, and it's over 1,000 years ago, and like 1,300 years ago, and this guy hasn't decomposed yet. So when these high beings leave, they leave the material body in a different way than a sort of the average person on the street, because they come from a place of perfect bodhi. So the whole purpose of why they came is they came to help. The avatars came to help the avadhoots, and that's another name most people don't realize are aware of. But an avadhoot is basically a self-grown avatar. So when somebody on Earth receives the Dharma and they take complete enlightenment here, they've risen to the state of Bodhi. Whereas an avatar comes down, descends down here, and he's already at a state of Bodhi, and when he comes in, and they have to attain enlightenment, or her. Whereas an avadhoot is somebody who's homegrown to Earth and who's reached that state themselves, and that's what this is all about. The avadhoot is really the people who are going to change the world and are going to help this next cycle take hold, and we become an advanced race of enlightened beings, and everything that the creator planned for us is supposed to be happening, and it hasn't happened because we just came out of a dark age, and it's not guaranteed to happen either. You hear a lot of people will go, victory for the light has won, we're already in the golden age. Bzz, and that's all wrong. We're not in the golden age yet. The light doesn't always win. There's actually an alternative Buddhist prophecy that says we can still have 1,000 years of darkness yet, if we don't get our own act together. If we just sit around and nobody's trying to attain enlightenment, and we're listening to all this new age spiritual fluff, but going nowhere really, truly spiritually, there's no guarantee. We're kind of in the driver's seat of our own destiny, and some of it is we need to start waking up, like we really do. But when the avatar and the avadhoot, there's no difference at that point, you see? Like, they've risen up. There's no difference anymore. The avatar was never really better. Like, a higher being would never make that claim anyway. They're just older, more experienced. They've crossed the shores before. But when the real beauty is when the avadhoot raises their consciousness and attains enlightenment, they're the ones who are going to change the world. And they're going to be the future Maharishis of the multiverse. You're not just going to be bound to this earth. You might go out and do the same things that Jesus, or the same things Krishna did, or the same things that Buddha did. Like, you've got a bigger role, even though you might be trying to pay your bills and live life, and you got kids and you got all these other things. There's still a bigger spiritual role you're going to play in all this. And but you gotta win it first. You got to become enlightened. So the journey of the soul. You always like this one, so I've really put some slides in here to get this for you, Rex. I did this for you.
This is really cool.
So the journey of the soul. What is the soul? And it's kind of hard to describe something that's the God spark, or the light little spark from the creator. But what really blew me away is when I started trying to research this, is the level, especially Krishna, and in the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads as well, the level they describe some of this stuff is otherworldly. Like, it's like there's no way they could have known this, even if we had a past golden age. How did they know it to this extent? Like, it's mind-boggling if you really drill down into some of this, what they knew long time ago. And so it's a multi-dimensional plasma ball. When I say multi-dimensional, because it can go in the dimensions. And when you start seeing these digital photographies of these little plasma balls showing up, when you look at them really close, you see the Tibetan and the Hindu Dharma wheels inside them. So the wheel of samsara is not just a metaphorical sort of thing where they try to explain. The wheel is literally right there encoded into your soul as well. So all your past life is in there. All your spiritual attainments and everything that you've ever learned is in there. I don't know how it's encoded in there, but it's not in your brain. It's in there. And I know for a fact because in 2015, I had like a real near-death experience where I was flatlined and they barely got me back again. And I left my physical body, but my consciousness was still there. It was more expanded consciousness, and the Sheldon Moore kind of disappeared in it, but I was still there, and I was still fully more conscious. It was like more connected and everything. So your consciousness is not in your brain. It gets uploaded and spun around and used and whatever. The brain is just like a microprocessor. The consciousness is the true God spark or the AI of that computer, basically. The brain is just the microprocessor. So it's that soul is where your true consciousness resides. And it enters the body several months before conception. And some people ask me, because there's a lot of information out there now where when the sperm first meets the egg, there's this bright light. And so some people have been asking me, well, could it enter the soul, or does the soul enter the being then? And it kind of does. The spiritual world's kind of a funny place. If you ever read the Tibetan book of the living and the dead, Padmasambhava says you should take your time selecting your parents. And he talks about going down this long hallway, and you can see all these different parents in the embrace where they're actually, you're on the other side, but you're seeing them in the embrace. And you can, he says, take your time to select the right parents, ones who are going to teach you the Dharma, and so you can attain enlightenment faster. And he said, take your time when you're selecting your parents. So that spark, that thread actually happens at the moment of conception. But the soul, the indwelling soul, doesn't come in for a couple months because it still needs a physical body. The causal body and the subtle body need a gross physical body to create this life and animate the chakra system and everything else. The wind channels, everything is activated when the soul enters the body. So there is a bit of a lag before it actually enters the body. But I think the spark is made when that spark of light happens. That's the thread that comes from the other side into that new life. And so it happens right away. And the soul retains all the past past life knowledge, and it's on the real journey of the soul is it's back to source. So I think the best explanation is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, another Gnostic gospel, where it says she mentions where Jesus came back so that souls can eventually return to the great center beyond space, time, and false morality. So that's the ultimate journey. Like we talk about the 6 realms in the Bhava Chakra. Well, the 7th realm, where Parinirvana, where Buddha went after he attained enlightenment and passed, that 7th realm is the ultimate journey where the soul eventually goes. You might go back to another higher world. You might stay here as we tick on into the golden age, a few more lifetimes, and some people will go all the way back to the great center and never come back again. So I knew I was going to get bothered by a pet here sometime. So it contains all this important information, and it must be liberated through enlightenment before it can really break free from the bonds of the earth. So in the past, the main ways to attain enlightenment is you can take a sutra path, and that's kind of the original Hinayana teachings of Buddhism. If you go into most of the Hinayana, like in Thailand and where they practice, they'll follow the sutra, which are the teachings of Buddha, which are written down in sutras, and they'll have meditation techniques and other practice, and it's that path. Like that's a fairly hard path. A lot of people, like, because I remember a lot of hippies. Like, I'm not quite old enough to be a hippie, but I had a lot of friends and people, 10 years older than me were hippies, and they got into Buddhism and all that stuff into the 60s. And they all just sort of gave up on it and went back into the workforce and became 9-to-5ers, and kind of, because they tried and they tried and they tried and they didn't get enlightenment like they thought it would happen. So they just sort of gave up because it's a hard path, because they didn't know about the timing and they didn't know about the technique. That's why a lot of them didn't complete the path. They didn't know this. wasn't known yet. It was only known in 2008 when I published my first book. And it really hasn't been known since the time of Buddha. He kind of wrote it. It's kind of hidden in the Kalachakra Tantra, but most people would never see it. And I'll show you where you can go look for yourself. I'm not making any of this up. You can go to these scriptures, and after you've heard what I said, you'll understand what they're saying in a bigger way. So, and the other way is to follow the Tantra path, and that's the Vajrayana Buddhism, or the Vajra path, because it's also very well practiced in India, and that's really where the first source of it came from. So and that's another thing that's been really abused in the West. People think Tantra is just about sex and when you're going to release and all this other stuff. And there's literally, you got to perfect all three yanas, the Hinayana, Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. But then there's 6 inner and outer yanas that you also got to perfect. It's a long path as well, and there's a lot more to it than they've got. A few more slides so people understand that to better length or greater depth, I guess you could say. The other one is Shaktipat. Now, Shaktipat's a little bit different. That's and I didn't know this. Yogananda, I always thought he got enlightened through Kriya Yoga because he was a very well-known Kriya Yoga master. But it was Shri Yukteswar did Shaktipat on him, and he became enlightened that way. And that's when the master sometimes comes and they put their hand on their student, and they're actually resetting that Buddha nature that's lower, and they're actually assisting to help a reset occur of your Buddha nature. And so you get this sudden enlightenment. And it's not used very often. And it's really when the master can shift that divine energy into the devotee. And that's what Shri Yukteswar, Yogananda was his student in another lifetime. I won't even get into that, but he was. And Shri Yukteswar saw that and thought, well, it's time. So we'll let him get enlightened and he can go off to North America. And he was really the start of in North America, I believe, is when that man came to this country or this continent. So there's Shaktipat, not used a lot of times. Then there's these what I call accidentals, and these are even more rare. This is when you hear about somebody just going to bed one night and they wake up the next day enlightened. They're old souls. It was their time. A lot of them weren't even doing a practice or anything. They're just one of these old souls. However, they often, anything that helps one enlightened person is really important. So I'm not knocking that. They're very important that they awoke into their own Buddha nature. But the problem is that they don't have a complete teaching usually. They'll focus on, it's the ego that held me back, and you got to get rid of your ego, or you got to live in the moment. And if you live in the moment, you'll become enlightened. And that's all they know. So you read their books and they're filled with fluffy words and there's pages and pages, but they don't know it exactly. And so that's a problem with an accidental. We got a lot of those right now around the planet. So you want to find some of these teachings of these greats, and not so much the more modern stuff, because a lot of it's still not going to enlighten you. It's going to lift your spirit and you're going to feel all great and stuff, but you're not going to win it. You want to win it. You want to become enlightened. That's a very important thing. And the other way is if you completing 108 koras around Mount Kailash. And it sounds kind of easy, just go up to this mountain, but it's not like, it's higher than you, Rex. I think the base of Mount Kailash is like 7,000 or 8,000 feet. So I don't know how some of the trips you might be going over.
I'm at 8,100 feet.
108 times. You got to, and it says it'll age you like 20 years. I don't know if there's ancient fallout on Mount Kailash. Maybe the Dark Ones bombed it with some kind of nuclear bomb in the last when the Dark Age came, because something ages you when you do it as well. So there's a price to pay. You will age significantly if you do 108 koras around Mount Kailash. And the other one is divine grace. So what I want to try to help people today is on either one of these paths, there's a way to complete it a lot sooner if you understand the hidden teaching. And the hidden teaching is in this book. One of the 3 books I would love to have is I would love to have the original Gnostic texts, especially Origen Adamanius's work before the Roman Empire edited it. That would be a mind-blowing book, I think. And I would love to have the original Kalachakra Tantra, because we only got the fragments, but the original Mula Kalachakra Tantra, I'd love to have a copy of that. And the reason I'd like to have a copy is I want to know if they did a better job than I did explaining it. I don't know if they did, because all the sutras out there that explain this, they're very weak, and they're very most people wouldn't even understand it if they read it. They would just glance over it and on they go to the next thing, and they wouldn't see what these ancients were really trying to what they're really trying to say. So a soul without corporeal form. Now, corporeal form means just without a body, right? So you're seeing all these digital photography now showing all these orbs that are appearing. Sometimes it's just a spider's web dancing, and sometimes it's just drops of water. But sometimes you see these three-dimensional ones. It's just you can't describe it. And I've personally seen them as well. And a lot of times it's just a spirit guide following you around or something like that, because we all have spirit guides, and apparently we all have angelic guides as well. But when you see one of these, it's an angel. It doesn't have this wheel of life in it, because angels have never taken corporeal form. They're a little bit different, and theirs are the more, when you see them, they're just kind of different colors, and they're just all kind of scattered. I think that's probably more of like an angel. And you see these things in the art. So they knew about this a long time ago. This is not coincidental. And the reason why it's happening in digital photography is, in the old days with where you took a camera and say you took a picture of this book, the film, just this image was just placed onto the film exactly like it was. With digital photography, that's not what happens anymore. It'll take the square here and it'll digitize it. And so the image is just digitized. And so you're just dealing with lots of little bits. If you zoomed right in, you wouldn't see that circle. You would just see all these little bits. And I think what happens is, whatever these are, they're fourth and fifth dimensional beings, right? Without corporeal form. And sometimes they're vibrating in the background, and that pixelation process allows them to appear in digital photography. And why we didn't see them in the film photography as much is because of the digitization of film, and everything now is all digital, and that's why they're appearing more and more. And that's you. That's us. Like, that's who you really are. Your soul, your consciousness, everything about you. Your physical body is nothing. It's like Krishna said. It's just used clothes. You just throw them away and off you go again. That's what we are in the spiritual realm. That's what we are, basically. And I'm going to explain how karma works on a quantum level, and how everything works at a quantum level. And this is not kind of like all these gurus who are trying to explain torsion field physics like 9 years ago. I don't know if anybody watched all that garbage, but this is real. It's a branch within quantum mechanics, but the quantum entanglement theory really describes the oneness in Buddhism, or oneness in Taoism, very, very well. All things are interconnected, right? Everything in the multiverse is interconnected. And what's kind of weird about quantum mechanics or the entanglement is, you can have a particle, photon, electron, whatever, in one part of the universe, and you can go right across to the other side of our galaxy, and there can be another particle that's entangled between the two, and they take on the same properties. And if something changes on this end, it might be 100 light years across. So you'd think it takes 100 light years at the speed of light to send that data or that information across, and it happens instantaneously. So it doesn't this speed of light and all the space-time stuff just gets thrown out of the window. The change happens instantly. And that's oneness. If you understand what Buddha tried to talk about when he spoke about emptiness, or what Hindus call it sunyata, or dependent origination. We're connected to everything, our ancestors, the food we eat, the water we drink, but we're also connected at a higher level to the stars out there, the whole solar system, the whole galaxy, and it's all interconnected, and it affects like what astrologers and stuff look at is basically they're looking at the quantum entanglements of constellations and the stars and how it affects us. And they've kind of over generations figured out how each constellation will affect you, and they kind of break it down, and that's really how basically modern astrology is really doing, and astronomy is they're looking at the entanglements of the stars, planets, whatever, and it's working the same way right down to the soul level. So the Buddhist void and the Taoist Tao, source of all things. It includes the sun, moon, the stars, everything in the heavens. It's all included, and it's all interconnected, and it affects us in a great way. All of these different things that affect us at the soul level. It's not affected in your physical body as much as it affects your light body or your subtle body, which connects into the causal body. So it's and karma itself is a form of quantum entanglement, because that soul, that orb I talked about, that's light based. It's plasma. It's a plasma we don't really understand, and I don't even want to try to fully explain it, because I would just look like an idiot trying to explain the infinite. But it's from the creator. It's the divine spark. But it's affected by light. And so karma gets carried forward, because whatever you do, well, in that light body, all the things you do, you're making those quantum, basically, entanglements for yourself. So view karma as like a quantum entanglement, and it gets carried into your soul. That's why it's very important to live a pure life and keep and generate good karma. But you got to be Krishna warned about this, and you got to be even careful about generating good karma, because you can start creating other entanglements where your soul might have to come back, because you did some good deeds. It's created enough entanglement that you might have to come back again to kind of balance that entanglement off. So you want to kind of just flow through life with creating as few of these karmic entanglements or quantum entanglements as possible. So so it's really the light body, which is the subtle body that's affected by the magnetics and electrics of the multiverse, of everything. Stars, suns, planets, everything is all affecting it. So astrologer basically decoding the numerous quantum entanglements occurring in the constellations. And get some of your astrologer friend to watch this podcast, because I think some of this, what I'm going to share as we go on, is going to even blow away the most competent Vedic Western astrologer out there, because most of them don't know this, and they kind of know it, but they don't know it to the level that they should. So purpose of this is when the yogi becomes the master. Okay, I'm assuming there's a lot of yogis watching this. I'm really blown away with some of the people from Leak Project that have contacted me over the years. Like, I basically sat down and wrote this book this winter because of one letter from a Leak Project viewer, and it's quite touching, actually. Like, I can see that it's going to help people. I think it's going to be later when you really see some of this stuff really take off, because most people just are either caught up in the fluff or just too busy trying to survive what the elites or what the ruling class are planning for us. But I really do hope that this information helps other people attain the same awakening that this guy did. So that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm excited about this stuff, because I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been trying to get away from it for a while, but it just keeps coming back and coming back. And
you keep coming back, and it's always nice, man. It's always a pleasant surprise to have you back. You're very much respected and appreciated by myself and a lot of other people.
That's good. So when I did this, I've been doing this for about 2 weeks, this presentation. I was trying to break down what are the what are the main things that people need to master to become a better yogi and become a rishi if you want to become a rishi? A lot of people watching this will be rishis. I've had quite a few people reach me over the years. I'm certain they're going to be rishis. They're more than just an interested person in this. And that guy that wrote me, for sure, that guy's going to light 1,000 more candles. I'm certain of it. I'm certain of it. And that's what it's all about. Be the flame and light another 1,000. Like if you become enlightened from this information some point in your life, go light another 1,000. Help. Like, if you don't want to take that path, that's okay as well. But your light will help light the light of other people as well. So I broke it down into 4 things. And one of them was Sri Ramakrishna once said that love and wisdom are equal. And a very profound thing, profound statement. But it's a lot deeper what actually occurs at the soul level with wisdom and love. And this is why the Gnostics were so big on wisdom as well. And if you can master love and wisdom is the first step, but you're still not going to be awakened. The next thing you got to master, I didn't put my name here, but this is what my teaching's about, is that timing and technique are also equal. So if you can master development of the wisdom mind, and that's more than just having a PhD or having a bunch of university degrees or thinking you're really smart because you read a bunch of books on philosophy and all that kind of stuff. That's not the wisdom I'm talking about. The wisdom is really the understanding of emptiness. And Jason Kappa said this when he said the 3 major things to the path are renunciation, where you say, I'm not going to get on this wheel of samsara anymore, and I'm going to get off it in this lifetime, and in the bodhisattva vows, where I'm going to attain enlightenment as fast as I can so I can help other people attain enlightenment. And the third one was wisdom. But it wasn't wisdom, like I said, the arrogant, I got this degree or I got all these degrees on the wall up here. Not that kind of wisdom. It helps, like learning and getting educations helps because it helps you think critically and you able to take information and hopefully open your discernment chakras better. But it's the wisdom of understanding emptiness. And understanding emptiness is what I talked about before, about the interconnection of all things. And when you truly understand that, there's a type of wisdom that occurs, and it allows all the atoms in the body to reach a calm state, and the mind to reach a calm state. So gnosis, the development of the wisdom mind, is very key in Buddhism, Gnosticism, all of those things, for a reason, because something happens at the causal body level that takes place during enlightenment. And the second one is love. And Shirak Tishwar said this, that this 5 aural electricities that make up the causal body. So that little orb that I've been showing you, Krishna actually talked about how it's made up of 5 aural electricities. And Shirak Tishwar said modern science wouldn't be able to measure those aural electricities until Treta Yuga, which is still 2,400 years away. So we're not going to be able to actually measure the aural electricities that these guys knew about 5,125 years ago that make up the causal body. But he said that under the influence of universal love, that they actually gain polarity. And once they have the polarity, you'll understand why the technique becomes so important, and you'll understand basically how you can attain enlightenment in one lifetime a lot quicker. It's not going to be as hard anymore, because if you understand love and wisdom and timing and technique, 4 things. There's 4 things you take away from here today. Those are the 4 things you got to understand. And it'll remove obstacles from your path to higher consciousness. It'll remove lifetimes on your path to higher consciousness. I'm serious. It really will. So master those 4, and higher consciousness will come that much quicker. It's very important. Very, 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 very important. So these ancients knew about the timing and technique. They knew this a long time ago. And so when the soul, couple months after conception, this soul here enters the body and goes to the soul seat, which is just below the navel. And that's where we all are. Your higher self is not up in Andromeda or all this crap you hear on the internet. Your higher self is actually in your belly, and your Buddha nature is in your belly, and it should be up here at the crown chakra to attain when you attain full consciousness. And so, how do you move that from there to there on a permanent basis, right? So a lot of the Kundalini techniques, all of the Kundalini yoga, all these Vajra, all of them, they got techniques how to pull this life force up, but they're missing the most important technique. And so they have all these other techniques, and again, it's just they're making it more complicated. And if you look at some of the highest lamas that are actually enlightened, there's actually quite a few Tibetan lamas that are enlightened, a lot more than you would think. But if you watch them in the interviews, you'll see them sitting there like this a lot. It's because they've done these practices so much and basically kind of hardwired themselves. And it's almost like trauma, and they're beautiful souls, they're enlightened, but they got all this trauma from all these rigid practices. And I'm telling you, they've got it wrong too. Like, they've made it too complicated, and it's not easy, but it can also be too complicated. And so the point is how do we do that so it goes to the top? That's all. That guy's enlightened now. He's got cosmic consciousness. You can see his light. He's connected to the multiverse now. How does that happen to everybody watching this? Now, there's another thing. Everybody knows the story of Shakyamuni Buddha, that he awakened on a full moon under the Bodhi tree, and he almost gave up in life. He was practicing this extreme form of yoginism, and no enlightenment was happening. And he finally just gave up. That was it. And he went under the Bodhi tree to die because he was almost physically dead. And he attained enlightenment. And everybody knows about that. And they know the story, and everybody talks about the story. Well, there's another thing that happens on full moons, and that's lunar eclipses. And I know for a fact Buddha became enlightened during a lunar eclipse. I know that for a fact. I wasn't there, but I know that that's when it happens. You will attain enlightenment during a lunar eclipse. I know that for a fact. And when I started looking back, after I knew it for a fact, when I looked back in our history, I realized that the Buddha knew it, and he didn't teach it openly. It was hidden, and there was a reason why it was hidden. And it's not hidden anymore. And I hope I'm not releasing it too soon, but I don't think I am. I kind of think I might be releasing it too late. But anyway, that's another story. So the complete teaching of the Buddha is in the Kalachakra Tantra, or the Kalachakra. It's in the Kalachakra Tantra, but it's also in the Bhava Chakra. So he gave a separate teaching called the Kalachakra Tantra to the first king of Shambhala. And it was never taught to the monks. The Tibetans have fragments of it, but it wasn't widely taught. And he gave just kind of the Four Noble Truths and follow the Eightfold Path, like basically why we suffer and how to end suffering. And he left the antidote, and that's it. This hidden teaching part wasn't there. It wasn't taught, but it was taught to the first Kalki king of Shambhala. And the reason why it wasn't taught on the surface is I'll show you on the map where we're actually at in our cycle. But Buddha came at 500 BC, and we entered the Dark Age around the time of King David, which was 1000 BC. So we're already 500 years into the Dark Age, and it wasn't the time. You don't teach a higher teaching when you're entering the Dark Age, the elements of a higher teaching, because it can be used the opposite way. The Tibetan Book of the Living and the Dead, which Padmasambhava gave to Yeshi Sogal, which was a white Tara, basically a living female Buddha. She wrote the whole thing down, and they hid it. It was hidden for 700 years because he didn't want it because he was during the Dark Age too. He didn't want it released during the Dark Age because the Dark Ones would potentially abuse it and misuse it. And so all of these teachings were hidden for protective purposes, so the darker elements wouldn't get the power from it. Because I've told everybody about the left-hand path, and I'm teaching the right-hand path. There's a left-hand path too that the elites know, that's tied into Babylonian astronomy. It's tied into opposite things they do during not lunar eclipses. They do their stuff during total solar eclipses because the energy magnifies, and they know all of this as well. They know these calendars. They know most of these teachings. And I'm pretty sure that my teaching's no big threat to them because very few people practice this. Like, one viewer is actually that I know of that has awakened, and I know maybe about a dozen other people, and that's it. That's not anything to brag about, right? So it's not a threat. Like, this is not a threat to them because most people will listen to this and they go, "This is a great podcast," but did you actually go out and do the teachings? I just gave all this to a lady I've been working with for 10 years and said, read this book. And she read the book. And I said, well, there's a total lunar eclipse next March. You should watch that one because you should watch them all if you're on the path. And then she wrote back and wanted the date when it was going to happen. And I was just like, come on, you people, you got to do something for yourselves. You want the dates now. Do you want a sandwich with that as well? Like, make the effort. If this really resonates with you, make the effort to do some of the practices and understand it, and make the effort. Every lunar total, not a partial lunar eclipse. I've had people want me to come and do sit-ins with their groups during partial. It's got to be a total. Partial, forget it. Solar eclipse, forget it. Total lunar eclipse. Please listen to that. People mix that up all the time, and you don't do it. It's so when I started looking back into our history, I figured out how they knew all of this, and what I was really shocked is.
Wow, thank you so much, Sheldon. I really appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Go to Amazon.com and order The Hidden Teaching, as well as Remembering Zen, Awaken the Buddha Nature Within from Sheldon Moore. I don't even think he makes $1 per book, but this information is invaluable. And I want to thank you so much for sharing these videos out. If you would please share this video out to your friends, to those that might be interested. Share it on your Facebook page, on your social media. And also you can listen to this in full. This interview alone is almost 5 hours, and it's available at Patreon. We've got it uploaded on Patreon, as well as you can watch it in full at Gnostic TV. Sheldon and myself have done probably like 40 hours at least worth of interviews together already, and those are uploaded at leakproject.com as well as Patreon. So if you want to hear more, tons of exclusive content on both those platforms, because we can talk about stuff on there that we can talk about. So really appreciate you. Have a beautiful day. Be the change you want to see, and be the change the world needs to see. It starts with you.